So guys, this is my beautiful shop located in Brandon, Florida. And this is my 1963 Austin Healey. Wait, let's get a little bit closer. Maybe we need to take that tarp off. That's better. So this is Jessica, named after Jessica Rabbit from the movie Roger Rabbit, because, yeah, it's kind of red. And let's get started, guys, on the next video. Yep. Should be. Not working?
No, tell me when.
Oh, now. So guys, on this episode, we're going to be installing our new performance camshaft. These are lifters here. They came with the camshaft when I purchased it. I'm going to check to see if we're going to install the old ones or use these new ones. But regardless, we're going to be using this engine assembly lube. This is Permatex. You can use whichever one you want. And that is necessary when installing your camshaft and your lifters as well. You definitely want to go ahead and use this. This is a John Delong camshaft, so this should give us a very, very neat sound to the car as well as some increased performance. So very excited about putting this in. John Delong was highly regarded in the industry. He's no longer with us, but from what I've read, these are one of the better cams for race applications. So excited to get this in, excited to get the car started. Let's step over to the engine. I'm going to show you which plates and what things you need to take off, starting with the timing cover. So guys, our next step is going to be taking off this timing cover, and you've got a 13mm, 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 then you've got 11mm, 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 then a 13mm and an 11 right under it, and then two more 11s down here, one there, and let's see if I can get this one, and one right there. So that's your bolts there. Cool thing is I found online a torque sheet for all the parts, so I will link that, and I'll probably fill you in when I'm putting this back on what the torque specs are for each one of those bolts, because they are different between the 13 and the 11mm bolts. And I also picked up the gasket off of a site called Moss Motors and British Parts Northwest, I think it was. I got the master cylinder, brake and clutch master cylinder. Great guy there. I talked to him, and Moss had a lot of the small gaskets and stuff that I need to pick up. I'll let you guys know all about those as we're putting everything back in. I'm gonna go ahead and take this off, and we'll move forward. So guys, as I'm taking each one of these bolts off, you have the bolt, a standard washer, and then on each one of these you have this kind of bracket washer, and you can see here on the 11mm you have one as well. Originally I was planning on replacing all of these parts, but what I'm going to do is try to salvage them and soak them in that solution that we picked up called Evaporus. I'll put that on the screen now so you guys can see it. So now that we've got the timing cover off, we can go ahead and take our timing chain pulley bolt off. And with that, you just need to take this part here that should be kind of bent down, get a screwdriver or maybe a chisel in there, and you're just going to bend this back out so we can then spin the bolt. And from what I see, this bolt is going to be the same as we just took off on the pulley, so that's 1 5/16. So I'm going to be able to probably just take it off without an impact, but I'll fill you guys in. Let me go ahead and flatten that area out, and then let's go ahead and take that bolt off. So I just got my breaker bar on here, and a heads up, I had to hammer my socket on here because of the damage from whoever chiseled down that little piece, and of course this little piece broke, so I may need to change out that nut, but all I did was one hard pull and it's already loose. So I'm going to get this off here. We'll be able to pull our sprocket off and our chain, and then we'll be able to access everything.
You got a lot more than I got. Help if I can see what the hell. usually just slides off that.
I wonder if the chain's just so tight now. There you go. Bet you it pops right off. There it goes. So we need to make sure to remove the distributor. The easiest way I found it is to remove your cap here by unclipping the two side clips. I've already got this thing pulled out, but I wanted to show you how I did it. And then there's an 11mm bolt that tightens this up. Once you loosen that up enough, you can set that over there. You can slide this completely out like so. Now be careful and set this off to the side so you don't damage it. So before we can pull our camshaft out, we're going to have to remove these three 11mm bolts. That's going to remove this plate. But first, we want to pull our lifters out that I showed you guys earlier underneath these two plates here. I've got the other plate right there sitting up on top. And you just got to grab your lifters out. I just stick my finger down in them. It pulls them up, and then you can slide them out like that. Set them off to the side, because if you're going to be reusing these ones, like I said, my new camshaft came with new lifters, so we might use those. We're going to look at the condition of between the two. And we're going to use the assembly lube on that. So you want to go ahead and get this off. Of course, we're going to remove all of that gasket and use that black Permatex stuff on there as well for the gasket maker. Alright, should pull right out. So guys, we've got almost everything laid out on the table, specifically that I want to go over, because you might be like me and at home learning as you go. Very excited about these type of things, and I really enjoyed taking this engine apart, and this was completely unexpected when I started this series. Didn't realize how much went into getting to the cams when I ordered them, and didn't realize what I was going to have to do to just change that out and what the performance difference is going to be. So I'm still going to learn that, and I'm excited about what the sound's going to be and how it's going to perform. So first thing, this is our original cam sitting next to our new performance cam. So original performance, and you guys can see here the differences. So really the big difference is the angle, the height, and the thickness here, as well as the thickness there in our cams. And there's a pretty big difference. I just showed this to my neighbor who's a mechanic, and he said you're going to get a lot of performance out of this. It looks like it's got a big difference. You're going to notice a big difference in sound and timing as well. So this is going to be exciting. I'm going to learn a little bit more about how that works and what that does. But to get to that, what did we have to do? We had to remove our distributor here, timing chain, which we had to remove the timing chain cover here. I also wanted to mention that there is a gasket in this timing chain cover that you need to change out every time you remove this. So this gets hammered in. So what I did to remove it was hit it. It's going to be inside here. I hit it with a screwdriver along the edge of a table, and it just eventually popped out. You could see it kind of got damaged, but it doesn't matter. It's really dry, so it does need to be changed out so we don't have any oil leak in the front there. So this is another part of the distributor that I just took off. This is the cap here. Our lifters need to be removed, which is just those two side panels that come out, and then you can pull them out. And like I said, these are the original lifters here, and you can see quite a bit of pitting in there. And our new ones look like they've been resurfaced, so we're definitely going to be going with the new ones. They need to be cleaned on the inside, and I've got some carbon throttle body cleaner to do that. Now, when we reassemble all this, there's a few things that we really need to make sure we do, and that is using the assembly lube, and we're going to use that around each one of our lifters, on each one of these lobes here, on this little sprocket here. Just not onto the inside areas here, it's not necessary, and then on here as well too. And that's going to allow us to basically, then we're going to be able to slide this all back in once we get all that done, and torquing everything down to spec. So I have a torque sheet that I looked up and found online, so I'm going to try to fill you guys in and definitely link you to that sheet. So as I put these back together, I'll put on the screen or mention each individual torque spec. So let's go ahead now. I want to get this cam put in. It's been a long day for me, but I want to finish off my day at least. You guys will see this obviously in all one video, but I want to go ahead. I'm going to start putting the lube all along here and getting all of these put back in, and that will also allow me to then start cleaning these down and painting these all on this series. So guys, let's go ahead and step out to the car now, and we're going to use this brass brush along with some carb cleaner and a bunch of towels, and we're going to basically scrub and clean down our head here prior to installing our head gasket. We're also going to get down into our cylinders with some 00, 000 steel wool. We want to make sure it's very fine, and we're also going to use some carb cleaner, get all that out. It is extremely important that we get all of this very, very clean before adding our gasket. So we're going to clean it all down, wipe it all down, and then we're going to use some air and get all of these little dirt particles out of here. Make sure none of them are on there once we lay our head gasket down. Then we're going to basically do the same thing to the bottom of our head with these brass brushes here, clean that all down, and then put our head on here. Then we're going to start assembling our rockers and everything else. I will be giving you guys the torque specs. I've been doing a lot of research on this, and it seems across forums everybody has their opinion, but I did find a manual, and so we'll probably be going with that, but I'm still going to ask a few other people before we go with the exact torque spec. So I'll fill you guys in once we get to that point. So let's go take a look at these heads. So this is one I've cleaned down. Now what I'm doing is rotating them, getting them pressed down, getting the inside walls, and I'm using this 00 steel wool, which you can use on the top here too. And then I got this all cleaned down and getting inside these walls and then pressing till this really comes up to the top, as you can see down here. That is what it looked like prior to cleaning it. So that is after, and that is before. You can't even read anything on there. So I'm going to continue to do this, get all those cleaned down, spend a little bit of time making sure this is as smooth and as clean as possible. Then we'll move on to putting the head gasket on, the head, and torquing everything down. I got those torque specs for you guys as well. So guys, let me fill you in now. There is a certain pattern that you need to torque these down, and your main head bolts are going to be 42 foot-pounds, but please check online or check with somebody, because there are different types of studs and there are different types of engines, and each engine might have a different torque spec. I found online they range from about 42 pounds to about 55 pounds. With the type of studs that I had, I went with 42 foot-pounds on my main studs, and on the studs that are on the rockers, I went with 25 foot-pounds. Hopefully this helps you guys out, but make sure you do your research before using this. Should be good. Okay, so we should be safe. Just sliding these over. So it's been a few days and I did some research, and now we get to take this head all back off, and I'm going to explain to you right now why. This is a total learning experience for me, and I hope you guys are learning as well. I hope to give you guys the best advice, but make sure you do your research if you're doing any type of mod like this. So with that said, the first off, this is, as you guys know, a 1275 head going on a basically an 1100cc motor, 1098. So from what I was told, it should have been a direct bolt on, and in some cases it is, but what we need to do, especially since we put in our performance cam, is we need to measure our valve clearance. So we need to take this back off, hopefully have 8 millimeters, but I'm going to take it even one step further. My neighbor next door, who's a mechanic, said that we can figure this all out because we can use a scope to see if we have clearance once we set it all up. The next thing that I need to make sure too is that these line up here with the tops here, and you can see this one does not. And what you can do is rearrange these, I'm guessing using some spacers, some washers in here, or grinding down. In this case, if you see, this is not lined up here, but I'll fill you guys in on exactly what I did with that. So we're going to do that. So guys, I spent the last hour or so rearranging our rockers here so that they line up the best I could. I'm going to walk you through this. So what I did was slid everything off our rod here, and then rearranged them and tried out a couple of different positions with them, and also added some washers. So what I did here was there was a washer and a lock washer, a spring washer, and I just put the regular washer in there, and that lines up perfectly. This one here is one of the ones that's off the most, and you can see it's kind of off to the left here, but it still fully engages with the rocker. So we're gonna test that. This one here lines up pretty good, and this one here, because I put a washer in here, is lining up very good, and same with this one here. This one is one of the ones that's off as well, and this one's off a little bit, but still we're getting full contact, so I think we're gonna be okay. And I got this one to line up as well. So I just wanted to walk you through that in case you guys need to line those up. You really just got to play around with them. I could take these other ones out and grind down a little bit on the side here and probably get it to line up perfectly, but we're going to run with it, test it out. What I want to do now is take this head, put it through a parts cleaner, get it cleaned down really, really well, and we're going to reinstall it on the car. We got a really good idea. I called the guy who sold me this head, and he suggested basically the exact same thing that my neighbor suggested, and that's just hand cranking it to see if anything hits. So a lot of weird advice out, I don't want to say weird, but a lot of different advice out there when you search the forums. People will tell you you're absolutely going to have interference, you're going to screw your whole motor up, and other people say no, and other people say adjust. So we're just going to go and test it out. If we need to make adjustments, we'll make adjustments. Now I could always go back to my old head here, which does have more clearance when you flip it upside down. And we're going to measure all that just to make sure, but just by eyeballing it, there is a little bit larger clearance, not a massive larger clearance, but a little bit larger clearance. And of course we put that racing cam in, which could create more lift. So we've just got to test everything out before we move forward, before we start the car. I'm excited, so let's go ahead and clean this down, get it put back on there, and let's test it out. So after taking the head over to the parts cleaner, we realized that we needed to take the valves out and clean them down because there was a little bit of leaking between the valves. I was actually kind of excited about this because this is the first time I've ever done anything like this on an engine, and it allowed me to learn a little bit, and you guys are going to see this here. So this was a really fun experience for me.
Make sure you take it down far enough.
Yeah, I just had to deal with that in the last thread. Didn't go far enough and then had to redo it.
Alright, so we've already got the head torqued back down, as you guys can see here. The rockers are nicely lined up, like I showed you guys earlier. We've already went ahead and cleaned down the head, went ahead and removed our distributor, and now we're going to manually turn it over to make sure our pistons do not hit our valves. So let's go ahead and set up for that. He's going to actually check with a light to see if there's clearance through our spark plug hole. So he's going to make sure nothing's hitting while I turn this over. Alright, looks like we've got clearance. He's checking it over here. Everything's opening up nicely. I don't know if we're going to be able to see down in there. But
Picture of it down inside.
This is looking good. It looks like we're going to have full clearance. Nothing's going to hit. So from what I see, we can go ahead and get everything put back together. Now we've already got the timing set, which is great. So that's all done. We've just got to manually put everything else back on here. So, I know you guys were really excited to see the engine start on this episode, but I promise you, it's all gonna be worth it. I did a lot more things on this episode than I ever planned on doing, but in the end, it was all worth it. This engine is going to be amazing, and I know we're gonna see it start up very, very soon. In fact, I'm already working on the next episode. So, if you guys are new to the channel, make sure you click on that subscribe button. Make sure you like the video. It helps me out tremendously. And I'll catch you guys on the next episode. Thanks again. Have an awesome day and a blessed week.